Smash the red button. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. Oh, they missed all my accolades. You'll have to go back and read them again.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I'll put it underneath. I'll just make
I'm just kidding.
sure. So you've missed the intro if you're just joining the recording now. So read the stuff underneath. They live in Elton with their two daughters, Joey and Jenny. And yeah, that's what I have written. That's all she wrote. So I was going to try and play a recording of Jenny actually performing, and I think Joey's in this one too. And we're going to try this out. And if it doesn't work, just tell me. This really sucks, Carrie. And then we'll start asking Jenny some questions, okay? But I want to make sure everybody's familiar with what her music is like. Okay, this is Google Chrome. Why is it blank? There we are. We have to start this over again.
So anyway, we're going to play the record and we're going to sprinkle in a few other oldie, but hopefully goodies for you too. The first one is the first song on the record, and it's called $100. So $100 won't go far. Came from singing songs in a downtown bar. For a little while you could say it's mine. If you want a piece you better get in line. I paid $800 for a two-bedroom. When it storms, the rain comes through. It's the price you pay to live in town. But there's always some shaking when the sun goes down. Some boys are playing at the troubadours, where you'll have two beers and not one more. Next thing you know, you stumble home at 5. At least it makes you feel like you're still alive. Well, this old $100 won't go far. Came from singing songs in a downtown bar. And for a little while you could say it's mine. But if you want a piece you better get in line. I got a phone in my pocket, was a gift from the man. Now I pay him $80 for a $40 plan. Just another thing that don't seem right. But after a while you don't know who to fight. When you pick yourself up out of the ditch and dust yourself off, say life's a bitch. I've done it before and I'll do it again. Well, I've been walking this road since I don't know when. This old $100 won't go far. Came from singing songs in a downtown bar. And for a little while you can say it's mine. But if you want a piece you better get in line. Get yourself a band and you work real hard, and then you make a record on your credit card. You'd like to sell a few, but the man at the store, he tells you nobody pays for music anymore. Well, this old $100 won't go far. Came from singing songs in a downtown bar. For a little while you can say it's mine. If you want a piece, you better get in line. Well, this old $100 won't go far. Came from singing songs in a downtown bar. For a little while, you can say it's mine. But if you want a piece, you better get in line.
hope that worked okay. We were having a little trouble with the sound earlier. Oh, I see some clapping going on. Somebody's got yeah. All right, good. Good. Now I'm going to put Jenny on pinned or spotlight. There we go. And that was recorded at Rasputin's, right? In Ottawa.
So Spirit of Rasputin's, yeah. So that's Rasputin's was like a folk club that actually burned down many years ago now, and I had played there before back in those days. But now a group of folks have a concert series that they do at a couple of different locations. That one is at a church. I think maybe that's the main location still. Is I think at the I can't remember the name of the church, United, but it probably lists it in that video. But so it's a concert series called Spirit of Rasputin's, which is a folk music series. So that's what that was in Ottawa.
I see. Okay. That's what I call it, the Spirit of Rasputin's.
Yeah.
I was away for a long time and I probably missed Rasputin's burning down or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the place you live, Elphin.
Yeah.
And how did you come to live there?
Well, so my mom, Mary Tuff, moved to McDonald's Corners, I want to say 20, like maybe 27, close to 30 years ago, probably. And so as a result, I was always coming, but still living in Toronto at that time and always coming to visit. So she had a farm property, Purdon Creek Farm on the North Shore Road of Dalhousie Lake, McDonald's Corners. So that's how we got to know the area. And then a few years later, Joey and I got together and then we used to come visit here. So then again, got to know some folks in the area. And then basically we decided to get married and we got a little bit of money from people when we had a wedding. And in those days, things were really still very affordable and still really are compared to a lot of places up in the Lanark Highlands. And Joey's mom is Ukrainian, and she was like, you should buy something. And neither of us were really kind of ready to think about buying a home, but we sort of just started looking for fun, and you know how that goes. So then next thing you know, we found this amazing property and house in Elphin, and we knew Elphin. And really part of the reason we knew Elphin was because of Mira, which my mom was part of the group who started Mira when they were trying to close all the public buildings at that time. And so we knew there were some artists and some, former commune people there. We thought, oh, these are, we'll know some folks in that area. And we saw this house and we could see through the work it needed done, and sort of fell in love with it. It's like in the village of Elphin, but it's way up a long driveway. So like I can see the lights of my neighbor's house at night, but I can also have privacy. And we only own 2 acres, but we're in the middle of a bunch of farmland and bush. So that's how we discovered the house. We put an offer in and we've been living there ever since. So we've been there 23 years now.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that there were some other artists living there. Is it kind of a hub for artists? Or are there quite a few musicians of all kinds of artists?
Well, now there are. So like we moved there. Yes, there were musicians there, not necessarily people who would be, necessarily like touring or recording artists, but definitely lots of people playing music. And the thing is that Joey and I, because we have a background in bluegrass, like we were it was a nice fit for us because we got to know all of our neighbors who were new, even though they've been there maybe for ages, but not from the area necessarily, like as the true generational locals. But we also, because we played like fiddle music and stuff, we were able to go to jamborees and like get together with people and play tunes, and so we got to actually know a lot of the locals pretty quickly too. So it was a nice we were lucky that way. But definitely now, like after we moved to Elphin, I got a call from David Francie and his wife, Beth, and they were moving from the Eastern Townships and they were looking in our area. And by the time I had gotten a chance to return her message and say there's a house for sale in Elphin, they had bought that house. So actually they didn't know they literally bought the house three driveways down the road from us. So David now lives in Elphin, which is why we call it the Juno capital of the world, because he's got 3 or 4 Junos now, I think, and I have a couple. So, there's 52 people or something in Elphin. So I figure that's per capita pretty high.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. And then lots of other artists like, doing visual art and, all kinds, and weaving and other things and writing. So there is that artistic vein running through those communities, which is great. And partly why we knew that is because of my mom living there and the people we had connected with, just like playing a couple of shows and doing some workshops at Mira too. We did, I think, even with Heartbreak Hill before Joey and I were even together. I think I'd done some work with some young people there, and I still see those people, and they're like, I remember Heartbreak Hill coming and doing a workshop when I was 10. And so we had a bit of the land, which made us a little more comfortable pulling pulling the trigger. Yeah, that's the term.
To buy the house. And
yeah. Moving from Toronto, because we went to Toronto every week and played the Silver Dollar for the first couple of years we lived there, because it paid our mortgage. So we'd go down and play that show every Wednesday. But we were touring a lot at that time, so we could have just lived anywhere, really. We didn't we didn't like play local gigs. We still don't really do that so much. So where we live is sort of up to us,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the local gig you do is your bluegrass camp in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Like a local gig. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a local gig. Yeah, exactly. But I don't. Well, actually, I usually do end up playing some songs at that. But I just am the boss. I just run that camp. So and I hire a lot of amazing musicians to teach at it. But I started that 10 years ago, and I did the first 5 of them or 5 or 6, 5 of them, I think, in Prince Edward County. Oh. It's called Old School Bluegrass Camp. It's all just called Old School Camps now, because we run camps that are songwriting and some other things too. But it's called Old School because my really good friend had bought a decommissioned public school in Milford, Ontario, and she renovated that, and she lives in half of it and has suites in the front. And that's where we started camp and started running camp. So that's why it's called Old School Camp, because it was in an old school.
So it's not the kind of bluegrass you play. But it is. I mean, bluegrass goes way back, right?
Well, it worked like as a bit of a double entendre. I also now have added sort of a tagline like old school, new ideas, because I don't want people to think we're old school in the way that we're not, inclusive and progressive, because we really are. And bluegrass has changed tons in the last 10 years in a great way. There's way more people playing it of every different description in terms of, gender and skin color and background. And it's wonderful. So we're super happy to be part of that progression.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Your mom starting Mira with some other people. How did that happen? Tell us.
Well, I have to say I'm not an expert. I asked my mom the other day if she could remember who was the group, and she was sure and unsure of a little bit of some of the folks, but some of the people are some neighbors that I don't think I'm in touch with anymore. But anyway, it was a small group of folks, and Anchorette was right there pretty much from the beginning, I think. And the idea was because they were doing amalgamation, I guess, right? And they were closing a lot of these buildings that were could be used as public space. And this was a community group basically who thought that there was a way to start a community center, essentially. And so I don't know the details in terms of how they pulled that one off exactly, but they did. And that was when the McDonald's Corners Elfin Recreation and Arts idea was born. So that was that group of folks who were able to keep that so that building was still available to everyone who lived in the community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the farmers market soon after that, and all the things. Yeah. My mom's a bit of a Johnny Appleseed of farmers markets. She likes to start farmers markets. She's done that in Bracebridge and and up in Elfin, and I think she's dead. There was another one too. I was thinking, yeah, that's good. It's a good legacy.
Cool. Yeah. Is she a musician too?
She plays music. She doesn't really play guitar anymore. A bit of arthritis in her hand, but she is a yeah. I mean, she could have been, but never was a on stage performer. But big fan and great taste in music.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I guess with the whole family playing, you get kind of everybody making music together. Is that
we do? Yeah, the Whiteleys do that for sure. Less these days. The heyday of the Whiteleys getting together and making music was definitely when my dad was married to my stepmom, Caitlin Hanford, who's a musician. And so when Jesse, my brother Jesse, who's their son, when he was, old enough to play some drums and mandolin and stuff like that, that was when, like, if anyone came over for a holiday or dinner, they would probably end up getting a show by all of us. So that'd be like my brother Dan and my brother Jesse, my dad, Caitlin, and occasionally Ken, if Ken and Ellen were there. And then Ben ended up playing music. He's a fantastic musician, but he didn't play as a kid, which we all thought was just bizarre. Like, what are you doing? You're not going to play. Anyway, turned out he's an incredible musician. Of course, he just took his time.
And your own career, you didn't get started right away. There's somewhere that you said your brother, everybody knew that Dan was going to be a musician, but not you.
Well, I think yeah, like, certainly not like, I guess I never really thought that it would be the way I make my living necessarily. It's not that I didn't think that. I didn't have a real drive to make that happen. It was just more like, gonna just, it was just so much part of my life. Like, I hope people understand what I mean when I say, like, if you grow up in a musical family, you're not necessarily an expert at music, but you speak music as another language, and it's just sort of something that's part of your fabric. So so I always knew it would be there one way or another. And it wasn't really till I made my first record with my band Heartbreak Hill that I was like, oh, I actually really like this on my own. Like, I like doing this under my own sail. And then that's when I sort of started realizing that I wanted to write songs, and that sort of all just tumbled out of me around in my early 20s, which is not late by any stretch, but it wasn't, I was no prodigy in the same way that my brother was.
Yeah, thinking in terms of songs, I guess, is, I mean, I'm a writer, so I think in terms of stories, and you probably think in terms of songs. I always wished I could write a song. So
yeah, I mean, I do definitely think in terms of songs. I think it's funny though. I do think in terms of stories too, because that's really what most songs are. The ones I write are, I feel, I don't know if I'd have the skill to flesh out a story into a short story or something, but I could. It might not be great, but I could write a lot more than what goes into the song. Like, if I'm co-writing with someone and they're like, well, what about this happens? And I'm like, well, that wouldn't happen because this person would never do that because of their backstory and their whole thing. Like, I have a whole world created around the stories that are in my songs and the characters. And so it's probably more similar than you think. It's just that I have like I have to condense it and have like this, my thing said low battery. Is everything okay?
I'm hearing fine.
Okay, great.
Perfectly well.
Worst comes to worst, I can grab the plug. But
yeah.
So I have to squish it down into a 3-minute delivery system. But I do have a lot of information about that stuff going into the song.
That's amazing. And do you write it down, or do you just have it all in your head and think it all through?
Usually it's just in my head. Yeah.
The music is what you probably write down. Or
no, mostly when I'm ready to commit a song to any kind of, I mean, I write everything down if I can remember to do that. And I use my voice memo to record things as often as possible, because even the slightest change of a word, or especially because I am writing this story in 3 minutes, like every note or every little, interval counts. And that could be the difference between making it a really cool song and making it just an okay song. So I do write down a lot of notes, and if I have an idea, I try to write it down, because it's so, you think it's the best idea, I'll never forget it, but then you always forget it. So if you don't write it down or don't record it, like it's just bound to be lost to the ages, unless you happen to play it for someone that night or something like that. But then even that, you might not remember it the right way, and then it's a little different, and then you always feel like, what a shame, I should have written it down because it was really cool that first time I thought of it.
I do know I've occasionally had a tune in my head and I completely forgot it. Voice,
yeah,
that's a great idea.
yeah, voice memos. All my friends who write songs or music, their voice memos are just full of 1,000 ideas.
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to go and get that plug, and I'll play some more music and you can plug in your computer, because I don't want it to die on us.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'll grab it.
And then I will just play a little bit, another song, because I have a few that I have on my screen share. And everybody else, I want you to start thinking about questions that you want to ask Jenny, because I've been taking up a lot of time with all of my questions. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go up. You're going to get to see me change this thing. Yeah. Let's play an old one. Oh, this is just audio.
I walk around this town looking for a friendly face, but everybody here is putting me in my place. The truth is in their eyes, the writing's on the wall, and I can't get a hand up even when I fall. I don't expect them to be my best friend, when it's my own foolish way that got me in the end. My cheating heart has brought me the trouble I found. I lived it up, now I can't live it down. I sit alone in my chair in a big empty house. All the shades are drawn and now the power's gone out. There used to be laughter all up and down the hall, and where his picture used to hang, now there's nothing at all. Now I don't expect him to ever come home, or to write me a letter or call me on the phone. My cheating heart has brought me the trouble I found. I lived it up, now I can't live it down. I used to go out at night, leave my darling at home, go and have a good time. No one seemed to know. And one night he heard the telephone ring, and that one conversation, Lord, changed the whole thing. Now I don't expect him to be my best friend, when it's my own foolish way that got me in. My cheating heart has brought me the trouble I found. I lived it up, now I can't live it down. No, I lived it up, now I can't live it down.
Beautiful. I'm now thinking through the story that you wrote about that person.
Mm-hmm.
I can see where having that thing all worked out is really central.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. I mean, you don't have to. There's a million different ways to write songs, but for me, you know, now I could probably answer the questions, but certainly when I was writing that song or when I had just written it, if someone said, well, tell me about the house she lived in when she was 12, I probably could have just been like, okay, well, it's this kind of, like I just have a world that I can picture and that I've created around all that stuff. And I don't try to do it. It just happens. So, I've done some songwriting courses and camps and stuff, and I'm not the primary teacher at the things I run, but I've done enough of it to know that there's a lot of different ways to approach writing a song. And that's the fun thing, is like, you can sort of find your way, if someone's looking and they're a little stuck or they need some inspiration or whatever. And I say, well, this is how I do it. And then Christine Schmidt or Sarah Harmer says, something different, then someone might say, well, I'm a little bit more like that. Maybe I'll try a couple of tricks that, Jim Bryson uses or whatever. But there's a million different ways, but that's the way I've always done it. It's just happened to me that way.
Yeah, I'm going to open this up to everybody and see if we have some questions.
I feel like I also, by the way, didn't really answer you very well about the camp, because I just sort of talked about where it started and why it's called Old School Camp. But so it's in Elphin now. We moved it. My friend who I started it with, she had her kids had to go to sleepaway camp. She had to take her dogs to the sleepaway camp, and it was a whole disruption of her life to do it at her place. And she loved it for the years that we did it, but she was ready to stop. And so she gave me a good long time of notice. And then we looked at some different places to do it, and then just decided that it made more sense to relocate to our own properties, because that way, we're in charge of that. And because I didn't want to move it again, that's for sure. And then we started building some facilities. We have, showers and really nice outhouse that we call the hoity toity. And it happens the first week of July every year. And it's open to people who are what we call like an advanced beginner, which sounds like an oxymoron. It kind of is, but someone who can, they might just be getting started, but they can play enough that they could play along with someone at a reasonable speed with knowing 3, 4 to 5 chords. So that's the kind of level. And then it gets fairly advanced. There's people who come who are professional musicians learning a second or third instrument. And the classes are really small. We keep the classes like 9, 10 people per instrument, so that the teacher can spend time with everybody. And so that's why it's mixed levels. Super, super fun. People love it. And you perform. By the end of the week, you perform with a group that you're put in. And it's fantastic. We have people who absolutely come every year, and about half the people who are new every year. So it's a really nice mix.
Nice mix.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there a particular instrument? Is it all banjo, or is it all?
So it's all the instruments that are traditionally in a bluegrass band. So that's why it really is that. It's because, first of all, I knew a lot of people in that area that I knew would come and teach kind of when I was first getting started. So that was kind of like my friend group that I could draw on, getting going. But also because I always made performance as a big part of the camp. So people come, they start playing with the other musicians right away, which is the most fun ever. So that's what really gets you hooked into playing music. And also you get way better, faster by playing with other people. So I really wanted to make that part of the experience. So then I thought, well, let's make it the instrument so we can make bands out of these people. So there's bass, there's clawhammer banjo, which is the old time traditional kind that people play like that with the open back. There's bluegrass banjo, which is the one that's like, it has the picks that sounds a lot louder. And there's guitar, fiddle, and mandolin. And then there's songwriting. There's a songwriting stream. So there's 7 streams you can do. And you don't have to play an instrument to be a songwriter camper. And it's adults, it's 18 plus. So there's lots of great camps that do have families and stuff, but we don't do that. Like we just don't have the resources to run that size of a camp. So because we keep it down to usually about 50 campers. So it's a good size for us to just manage to still run it ourselves.
How cool is that?
Yeah, we love it.
Thanks for answering all the questions I didn't ask.
No, I just realized that I kind of just answered like, what's the name of it? And then stopped talking.
But I think we were worried about your cord running out.
Yeah, we got sidetracked as usual. Yeah.
Anyway, I think Pippa or Anchoret has a question. They've got their hand. Does everybody know how to put your hand up with you don't have to do it with that little gizmo down at the bottom, but you can. Or you can just wave your hand if you want to ask a question. But Pippa, you go ahead, or Anchoret.
Well, we were just talking together and we were wondering what the future of music is. Where are we going to go? Are we going to have AI? Are we going to have festivals? Where are we all going with our music? And will our music stay the same or will it change? We're looking at the future.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I mean, I wish I knew, but so in terms, I can address the AI thing because that is something that comes up a lot as an artist, is people are worried that AI is going to take over creating art. And I understand that there's the potential for that to happen in terms of, like, let's say McDonald's needs a jingle. They could have AI potentially create that jingle in the style of someone else. But in terms of people who create art because they're artists, which is really, and everyone I know who writes songs, the motivation is not to be the only songwriter. The motivation is to create your own art. So the reason I write songs is not because I want to be one of the only people doing it. So the more people doing it, it doesn't change my motivation. So I see AI as just another layer added to what's happening. So I'm not saying that there'll be issues with it for sure, because any new technology, like we're still barely figuring out streaming. Like, you know, everyone who makes any money from their music being played by people now makes no money from that. And so, you know, that's a huge issue that has to be resolved. So it takes a while for these things to figure themselves out. So I do anticipate some bumpy times with the AI creating music, but I am not worried about it personally. And I also, you know, that's also kind of my outlook, I suppose. But I do talk to a lot of other musicians who feel the same way. And I think that a lot of people who worry about it are more the executives or the people who really are making money off of music. and maybe people who don't totally fully understand maybe the motivation for musicians to make music. And that's not through any fault of theirs. It's just that, you know, I think it's anyone who is an artist or knows an artist or has an artist in their family would probably know that person is not motivated for a lot of reasons other than just this drive to make the art that makes them feel so good. And if you happen to connect with other people through it, then you're really fortunate, you know. In terms of live music, I think that's what we're going to see a huge boom in, because I think that live everything is going to become hugely important, which is an interesting thing. It's kind of the opposite of what people would have anticipated with Zoom and all this stuff, is that everything's just going to be voice recognition, like somebody won't even be them. It'll be a fake version of them. And that can happen now. So I think as a result, it's actually going to force people to get together in person again more and more. So meetings will have to be in person so you can trust who you're speaking to. And music and festivals will be something that people will really be seeking out, because I think people will more and more be looking for the genuine experience. And so I actually think that live music will have a real heyday coming up. In fact, I think that it is already started. And I think probably partly after the pandemic, people were really realizing how much it meant to them to be with a group of people, experience something. Like, people go to way more movies than people thought they would now. And I think it's the same with live music. So I'm pretty rosy on the outlook of music. I'm not saying that it won't be tricky, but that's my 2 cents.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm encouraged.
Oh, good. As you should be.
Yeah.
And those AIs, the basket weaving is no good with those AIs.
No,
You've seen it?
AI,
Disaster.
to make a basket. That's
I should probably have. I haven't actually seen one. I was just kidding, but
I think Susie has the next question. She has her hand up.
Hey, Jenny.
Hi, Susie.
Hi, nice to see you.
You too. How are
And
you?
hear you.
Yeah,
I'm
you
good.
too. Good.
Yeah. And yeah, thanks for those thoughts, because it's definitely encouraging. You can get a little bit disheartened around the situation of the world right now. But yeah, great motivation. And yeah, anyway, I guess my question that came up when you were talking about songwriting is just what's inspiring you now in terms of songwriting? Are you songwriting now, or what's
Yeah.
inspiring you just generally in life, and what's coming up? What are you working on?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's great timing for doing this, for that question, because so Joey and our friend Julian Brown and I, because we only work with people whose names start with J. We started playing music together a few years ago, like 5 years ago, I guess. And Joey and I wanted to make a French record. We lived in France for a year with our kids. We both speak French. And we thought we always had wanted to make a French record. So we made it with Julian Brown. He doesn't actually speak French, which is funny, because he recorded the record and he wouldn't know what the heck we were talking about. And so he'd have to gibberish French, that part where it's this. And anyway, but so we made this French record a few years ago, and we never really ended up releasing it, couldn't really tour it. So, but we kept working together and kept making music together. And so now we've got a full English record as well. So now in May, we're releasing a double record, one side's in French, one record's in French, one's in English. And so that's what's happening, which is super exciting. And I love it. It's just 3 of us on vocals and just guitars and mandolin. That's it musically. I don't even play on the record. I just get to sing and write the songs and stuff with those guys. But a cool thing that's happened is Julian will send me music, and he kind of like hums or la la la's over the music. And that is really exciting, because I never had really explored a ton. I have done co-writing, but I haven't really done it on a regular basis. And I'm a real puzzle person too. I love like escape rooms and puzzles and stuff like that. And so when he would send me the music, interestingly, my brain does the same thing even with someone else's music, is I'll fill in like a whole story. I'll get this idea. I'm like, oh, I know what this song's about. And then I'll have the whole sort of, layout of it, and then I have to go through and put it all together like a puzzle. Okay, well, how do I actually say this in the song? How does that work with the melody? Do we need to add a bridge? But I love it. It's like, it just flows so differently than writing my own songs from scratch in a certain way, which still would like to keep doing if I'm excited about them. But it's a real bummer to have to like make art when you're not feeling excited about it, because you're like, what am I doing here? The whole idea is that it should be some kind of a catharsis or a joy bringer or something. And so if you're kind of pushing through just to do it because you need 10 more songs, or you need to, pottery people are, they're like, I gotta make 10 more goddamn bowls for that show or whatever. Like we all have to do it sometimes, but it's not ideal. It's not ideal. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what's exciting for me right now. So I'm actually like, I made a record like 7 years ago that was a bunch of songs that I learned as a kid, and a couple of mine that really fit into like the jug band tradition, which did well, and it was a fun thing, and I toured it. That video from earlier was from that tour, but I hadn't really made an original record, I felt like, for a long time. So, and also really just jumped in and done it like in the way where you actually have like someone who's managing you, and like sort of more in the traditional route of things. And so we're doing that. We're kind of jumping back into, like, we're going to Folk Alliance this weekend, coming up in not this one, next weekend in Montreal. Yeah, so I'm kind of excited about it. I'm not the same person I was 15 years ago when I was kind of like needed a break.
Totally.
And like this is her last year of high school. It's kind of good timing for Joey and I to have some kind of a new thing to be working on. We could probably be away a little bit more. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And I get to like just be on stage and not play the guitar, which is like, I've never done that. So I don't know what I'm going to do with my hands, but I'll figure it out.
Clap your thigh like Christine.
I know, you have to get into that. I do that sometimes actually, and I think I'm really copying her move here. I gotta find my own move.
I love hearing about the excitement around collaboration, and also back to your earlier point, just around how you think that people are going to be and are already wanting to congregate together. And I totally think that's where the juice is at right now. I think it's so necessary, and people are longing for it.
Yeah.
And doing that in a culture, like in a culture context, so that they can, play music together, or, make art together, or just have a communal experience that that sort of lights them up creatively and imaginatively, I think is just so necessary now.
And whenever you can give someone a chance to be so wrapped up in a feeling, in a moment, that they're not thinking about anything else, they're totally connected as opposed to disconnected. Because we all need our times to be disconnected, just to turn our brains off and stuff like that. But it's great to just like really load up that frontal lobe and just be like, let's just experience something right now. And really just like, like dancing is another great thing. Like people are really wanting to square dance, and all these things are happening again. So it's really heartening.
Yeah, that's great. Great to hear. Just one last question, if I may, Carrie.
Okay.
It's just around whether there's going to be, will there be a concert or a dance or anything after the camp or during
We don't
the camp?
usually do a public thing. I could. The reason I don't, honestly, is just because like if someone else wants to organize it, like
I know you've said that to me before.
It's true, because promoting a show and selling tickets to a show is totally its own job, and I already have a huge job running camp. So someone else was like, get the band get all the musicians who are playing to stay for the Sunday night and play a show. We'll sell tickets. I would totally do something like that, but I can't take it on myself, because I've thought about it enough times now that I realize it's not gonna be a good fit. But I'd love to, or I'd also say to the people, like, if you want to do a show in the area, like that would be okay too. Like when we've done camps on Wolf Island at the hotel, those guys or gals will stay and do a show at the hotel, and so then all the campers will go see that show, but then public can also come to it. So because that's not my purview, so then the hotel handles it. So I'm totally into the idea. It's just its own gig.
Well, we should maybe talk
about
the barn.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks. Great to hear
nice
you.
To see you.
You too.
We'll play tennis sometime soon. You still play?
Maybe not. Who knows?
I still play quite often.
Pickleball seems to be the thing now.
We'll see. We'll get a racket hopefully.
We'll try.
Yeah.
We'll try.
So I'm not seeing other hands. You can just speak out. Oh, Pippa, there's a no on your on here, and I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm not enough of an expert with Zoom. If you could,
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Okay. And I don't know whether I clicked on something wrong and you had a hand up, and and if I click this, it would take it away, but it might
Is
completely
it?
you
I
disappear.
don't. I don't. We're projecting you from my phone onto a bigger screen so we can both be here.
Right.
And I usually do Zoom on my phone, so it's quite likely. Anyway, I wouldn't worry. But I did have another question.
Oh, good.
I was wondering, with Spotify and all those streaming things that really are detrimental to the, any lucrative part of making money for artists, which is really wrong, I think.
Yeah.
If Jenny, you could tell us if there's a way besides coming to live shows. I'm in British Columbia, so it's kind of expensive to come to your area to watch a show. I think Mia Kelly was saying that there's an app called Bandcamp that you can buy. I don't have any machines. Like, I can't buy a CD and put it in a machine because our car doesn't have a machine anymore.
I know. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me what the answer is. How do we support musicians that we absolutely love and depend on?
Yeah. Well, so some people have just a running donate button on their website. So if you want, if you're like, I just really love this person and I want to give them $40, but I don't have that set up. But Mia's correct that Bandcamp is definitely the best one. Everybody at this stage, that's why I'm saying it's so bumpy to get through all these technology changes, is because everyone, as we are still, a lot of us still using Facebook, even though we probably don't agree with that platform, the person who owns it, we're using Facebook because we have 1,400, 2,500, whatever followers there, or friends. And that's how we tell people what we're up to. It's hard to know what to do as an alternative. I mean, we didn't used to have it, and people used to find out about it, but we lost all the Now magazines and all that stuff, right? So the same thing with streaming. Right. We're still all doing it. We're still all putting our stuff out on the streamers, mostly because we would like people to hear our music that we took all this time to make, and maybe then they will come out to a show, or we'll gain a little bit more of a following, or people will be talking about how much they like it or whatever. But if you can just go onto Bandcamp and buy your music there, that definitely is the best one. And it's just a different format. It's basically like an online record store as opposed to a streaming service. So you buy the record and then you own the record. And then you can play that record as many times as you want, just as you would any other record that you would buy in hard copy. So that's how Bandcamp works. And so it is great. And I would definitely suggest that's probably, if you're looking to just really, how do I do this so that I can support and feel good about it? Right. But most artists also, just so you know, would never hold it against anyone to go to a streamer. YouTube, whatever, it's on everything. And, Gillian Welch has that song, they figured it out. We're going to do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay. It kind of goes along with my artistic thought earlier of like, well, there's nothing that's going to stop you from making it. And unfortunately, but the thing that's really unfair is that somebody's making a ton of money. If there was no money to be had, probably we'd all be like, oh, well, you know what? This doesn't make money. But there's people making millions and billions of dollars off of music, and the artists aren't the ones making it. So that's where it gets to be unfair. It needs to be more in that line with movies or something, or sports, where you think this is crazy how much the sports figure is making per year. But you know what? That money would be there anyway, and somebody would be making it. So would you rather it have just go to the owner of the team, or should the person who's playing the sport really be getting somewhat of a fair share? And same with movie stars. You think, how can someone get $14 million to be in a movie? Well, you know why? Because that movie's going to make $700 million. So that person should be getting 14 million. So we, as musicians, we're not organized enough. We never have been. Our unions are not great. We've never been able to go on strike. Like, imagine if we could strike like the writers strike in Hollywood, and all of a sudden there's no movies, there's no television. Right. Imagine if there was just no music. Like, we don't have the power to stop people from playing our music. So it doesn't, so we haven't figured out how to do it yet. But right. in the meantime, definitely, of course, obviously going by live, going to see bands live, but Bandcamp is a good solution for now, for sure. And we will be out in BC. I'll be in BC in the fall.
Oh, good. I think there's some tracker of live music. Sometimes things pop up and say music near you. And
Oh yeah. Oh, that's good.
kind of magic. I'm not quite sure, you know.
Right.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
we'll look forward to it. That
Yeah.
would be great if
Yeah.
we saw it.
I think it's AI doing that.
So much.
Yeah. Yeah. I was enjoying the AI lyrics on the video you played.
Oh, they were so bad.
Yeah, they really missed a few that my telephone was raining, apparently. So there you go.
I just knew.
Oh,
Like the lyrics that were popping up. Yeah.
I know, buddy. Yeah.
Apple Music. If somebody buys something on Apple Music, you get revenues from that, right?
Yeah. Anytime you can buy the record anywhere is better than just streaming it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Bandcamp's definitely best. And most artists you see will do, oh gosh, I'm forgetting what day of the week it is. There's a Bandcamp day of the week where they get all the money. Bandcamp gives all the money to the artist. So that's something you could just Google what day is the best day to buy something from Bandcamp. And so people often will post saying, if you haven't bought my record and you want to, today's a great day to do it, So, yeah.
Hey. Trina, you're looking like you might have a question, but your hand may just be holding your head up there. No microphone.
No microphone. Oh, okay.
Oh, that's too bad.
I'll just mention a bunch of subjects and you can put your hand up when I hit the one that you want me to talk about.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. You want to hear about my family?
Sure.
Well, I was just thought Trina might be like, yeah, I saw some people, I get very often people coming up and saying, oh, I used to love your dad's band and I went to see the Sloth band in the 70s and who inspires me? Okay.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
There you go. Smart. And anyway, so that I just was wondering if that was one of those. And people are always like, now, which one is your dad? Is it Chris or Ken? A lot of that. Who inspires me? I listen to tons of music and lots of new music, and I have young daughters, so I get to listen to a lot of, and they both love music. My daughter, who's 22, is she's 21 only. She's 21. She's in a band called Meteor Heist, and she's a songwriter, and she's super cool. And like my niece, she's really my second cousin, Georgia Harmer, is another young songwriter who's awesome. So a lot of people who are young making cool music around me, which I love. And I also get, like, they turn me on to stuff they're listening to. But even on my own, like Joey and I are big music fans. I'm always listening to new stuff that people turn me on to or that I discover. I find a lot of cool music through soundtracks. So if I'm watching a movie, I often find that, like, for instance, I found several people who I really listen to a lot now through like the last song playing at the end of a movie during the titles. And I look up, who's that, and so and then that sometimes can bring you down another rabbit hole, like Lisa O'Neill is someone Lisa O'Neill's great. I should write a list because now I'm on the spot and I'm going to have trouble thinking of people's names. But there's a lot of
someone just disappeared. Yeah. Was that her? Oh my goodness. Oh,
she's writing a list.
I guess. I hope she can come back in. Should I play the third song that I had up of hers where she talks at the beginning? It's quite fun. Okay. She tells a funny anecdote at the beginning. So
there was one about the pines.
Yes, in the pines. And it's fun. Okay, there it is. And it's also from The Spirit of Rasputin's.
As a kid growing up, I played music with my family. I played music with my dad, Chris Whiteley, my uncle Ken, his brother, my brother Dan, my stepmom Caitlin, my brother Jesse, my cousin Ben. There's a lot of us.
On and on.
And one of the things when I was in the junior jug band, which was the band music for kids that we had and we toured with and everything, that was just my dad, my brother, and my Uncle Ken, my brother Dan. One thing my dad would do all the time would, for some reason, he wanted to just make me crack up on stage. Like, he just wanted me to lose it. I think he just really got a kick out of it, you know? So I'd be doing a song, you know, the Beatle Bug Bop or something, and I could feel his eyes burning into the side of my head, trying to make me laugh, and that's what you're doing. That's why I'm not looking at you.
Don't try too hard.
But this song's one I've been singing my whole life, and it's a Lead Belly song, and it's called In the Pines. So, 1, 2, 3, 2.
Okay. Action here.
My love,
Don't have
my
the number.
love, what have I done to make you treat so?
Oh, it's 7:59. Yeah. So we might as well sign. I will see the buddy that okay.
When the cold winds blow, with the longest train that I ever saw, it went down that Georgia line. The engine passed at 6 o'clock, and the caboose went by at 9. In the pines, where the sun never shines, and the shiver when the cold winds blow.
Oh, that's enough.
Okay, so off, and they could probably all hear me talking. Okay, so call in on FaceTime and I can do it on my computer. And we'll see if we can get you on shared screen here. Okay. Just to say goodnight. Yeah. Okay. Bye. All right. She's going to try calling in on FaceTime, and I'm going to try sharing my screen. There's FaceTime. Accept. And okay, now I have to do sharing. No. There. Oh my God, I feel so high tech. Can you?
Did you get it? LinkedIn?
Can people see? Are you seeing okay? All right. Speak up.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you probably can't see the rest of them.
Okay, no, I can't, but my iPad died and
Your volume is very low. Can you turn your volume up?
yeah, is that better?
It's really faint.
Well, I'm not going to talk long anyway. But thanks everybody for coming to the the interview. Thanks so much. It was lovely, Carrie.
All right. We enjoyed it.
I'm just going to zoom right in on my eye here.
Oh, there you are. Now that's better.
I'll see you all around town.
Okay. Bye now.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you
bye.
so much.
Thank you,
Bye,
Jenny.
everybody.
That was great, Jenny. Thank you.
So nice to see
Really had a
everybody.
good time. Thank you.
Yeah.
We did. Thanks, Carrie, too.
All able
Well
to.
done.
I wasn't hearing her very well, so yeah. All right. This was great fun. Most of it worked really well, I think. And
You're the wizard trying to make it happen. Congratulations.
thanks.
That's great.
All right. And I found out some new things about songwriting and stuff. So I was very pleased about that.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it. So that was interesting.
Yeah. And the bluegrass camp and all kinds of stuff. And people asked really good questions. And yeah, that was great. All right.
Great.
Well, see you next time. Take
One
care.
more. Thank you.